Anyway, hello. This would be the racism part two for our Monday labs. And the first one involved in fiction when you do have these designation of races in a role playing game, when you have offspring of different parents as a designated feature in game. Here, the topic is about having a pretty wide range of such options. And the question is, well, basically supremacy. Is there a betterness? Is there a worseness? In other words, how does it look both in setting and then as a game feature that you're dealing with um, a ladder of any kind, a sort of sense of the good ones and the bad ones, or the skilled ones and the unskilled ones, or however you want to code it. Now it's a fairly subtle topic. That's why I did my video with the three that I thought gave a range. Three games with diverse character options that they call races. Um, One of which I considered to be a almost heinous supremacist tract. One of which was explicitly dedicated not to be, and yet had an odd exception. And then finally, one which I think was important because the actual in fiction sorts of creatures did consider all the others to be at best confused. But they were all, and the human types included, were all very much presented as equivalent points of comparison for purposes of play. So it's a very interesting range of games. What games did you guys come up with? What do we got?
I'm a little late to this. I don't have any good. Let's let Herman show us this.
Yeah, you think about it while Herman introduces us to this. Wood Traveler looks like a fairly early one, right?
This is the early stuff. This is a GURPS Traveler Humanity book. GURPS there's been a GURPS variant about it as well. So Traveler had thinking about the topic as you just described it, and finding that, looking at that in Traveler of course has humans as its predominant player character option, but over its lifetime also introduced variant humans, like fitting with the setting, which is that the setting premise is that humans originally all came from Terra, from where we live, but were plucked down from there and distributed across the universe by some ancients some 300,000 years ago. So there's various the diverse offsprings of variant humans, which evolved slightly different. And of course, there's the actual aliens, the Eslan, the Vargar, which are an actual alien race, the Vargar, which are uplifted dogs or canine type creatures, and a lot of them got some information. Now, in game terms, they don't differ all that much. They're treated quite equally. Of course, if you want to play, say, a psionic kind of character, the cultural thing in the main settings Imperium is psionics are frowned upon, and so you can't really play that unless you find the Psionics Institute in play. But if you manage to play, if you play in a Zodani, which is the psionic human race, you will probably be that if you roll good enough, and if you roll it just a little bit, you're automatically a noble Zodani, because all the psions there are noble. However, most campaigns I've run and played in, a few things, a few I've played in, were all centered on the human, the general human characters going adventuring at the edges of space, like say Firefly, like things like that. There's in the setting, there's a conceit going on in which there are major and minor races. Major races being the ones who discovered the jump drive, the way to go from star system on themselves by themselves. The minor ones discovered it from someone else, or bought it, or did something else. However, somewhere in the meta plot, there's the hint that one of the major races actually is a minor race. So, one of the other things, there's the Solomani, the humans from Sol, who think of themselves they are better than any other humans, are purebreds and etc. They're sort of almost Nazi-like in their appearance, but they're not. They're mostly the baddies more than. So yeah, it's a mix of of setting, mostly setting-based differences. If you're talking about race.
So if I'm getting this correct, there is in fiction supremacy or supremacism, but it's fairly localized to one group of people, which of course has a bit of an edge because, that's the Earth people. But the point is that the interactions among them, the rules or the race descriptions, do they carry a textual weight of that same supremacism? In other words, it's not as though the rules were written by and to be read by that particular race, that particular.
No,
rather the opposite, I would say. Right?
Yeah, they're quite. And of course, there's differences. Like, okay, if you got a race which has grown up on a world in which the gravity is higher, they'll probably have a higher strength, but will have something else lower in. So that's the what in classical fantasy, the elves are more dexterous and the dwarves are
have some niche action.
Some niche edging going on, and some races might have, as I said, some races might have access to certain technology or certain skills that the others can't have. But it's not really this is better than the other. Right. It all has. It seems reasonably balanced if you go rules wise, and certainly not brought out from everyone should play race X because they're better.
Most of the science fiction games that I'm familiar with follow this model, at least the ones with lots and lots of characters. What I find in the science fiction games is common to, and this could actually be a whole topic of its own sometime, it's common to science fiction as at large, particularly the literary science fiction, the books, which is that humans often are tagged as special in a subtle way. They're special because they're not as specialized. They're special because they're adaptable. They're special because they're bold, right? The other races sometimes are kind of fuddy-duddies, with their old nobility systems and stuff like that. And a similar thing happens with the what am I trying to say? A similar thing happens if, for example, the humans are a little bit barbaric. I'm thinking of the Uplift series, David Brin's Uplift series, which is grossly and horrifyingly humanocentric. I mean, brutally racist. Everyone loves it. It's terrible. And the reason is because we have all of these uplifted races or groups or species, and they're supposed to be as good as anyone, except they're not. They're always reverting, and they're always, struggling with their artificial, sentience, whatever that is. And the humans, on the other hand, are one of those rare, self-uplifted species. It's like everyone else evolved. This is a misreading of biology that people do a lot. They think, well, all the other non-human creatures, they evolved, yes, but we evolved ourselves, right? We shinned up into humanity. And that's very common in a misreading of biology, and it is so pervasive in science fiction that it is, in some form or another, that it's almost unavoidable. I mean, once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's everywhere. So you guys are familiar with this, right? Humans have this kind of curious noble mongrel, noble something or other trip going on that the other spacefaring or other just as good as us, but not really groups have.
Yeah.
Does Traveler have anything like that? Do you think, or does it seem like a little mild, if there at all?
It has a little bit. I mean, there's the Terran, the humans from Terra who are indeed have uplifted themselves, at least according to the meta plot I'm familiar with. All the others might have uplifted themselves as well, but they have been transplanted and adapted by the ancients long ago to fit better.
So that does match, yeah.
Yeah, and the human races all have something like something exaggerated
right.
about them. Like, well, the Eslan are the lions. They have the fierce males and the smart females.
Right. Niven plays a role in this, doesn't he, as an author?
I think not directly, I think,
right.
but for example, Niven has the puppeteers,
and the Xinti especially, yeah. Uh-huh.
And the Xinti are a bit, the Aslan are a bit like the Xinti.
Right.
And the Traveler has the Hivers, as they're called. They're sort of like puppeteers, but different. They're not as, they're unlike that. The puppeteers are scared as hell of everything and anything, if I remember right.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
The Hivers have more of a curiosity, but still have the manipulation going on. And they're trying to manipulate their opponents, their friends, their other races, other things to make things go as they prefer.
Right. Interesting. Okay, so Robbie, what did you have in mind?
Well, one game that I was thinking about is a game in development by Robert Bohl called Demihumans. And in that game, you have, various quote unquote demi-human races like gnomes, trolls, orcs. And the idea of the game is that the humans have been on the ascendant, and that they are now forcing the demi-humans to live in enclaves, either within or right next to the dominant human, settlements. You can play a human in the game. Okay, so the idea is that every player ideally should be a different one of these demi-human races, and one of the ones available is to be a human. But if you are a human, you play the traitor. Okay, right. So you would be a human, and all of the different character types have it's a Powered by the Apocalypse game, so each one has its own kind of set of moves that you have common moves that are available to all the characters, but every character race or a demi-human classification has its own separate moves. So you would have that human that is then in this kind of Twilight Zone right space, because they have possibly some ties to the dominant human culture, but then they also have they also have some potential ties to the people in the enclave.
I guess I'm a lot less interested in the human option than in what you might think of as what everybody sort of came here to do, which was to play not the humans. So my understanding of demi-humans is that it is very explicitly about the abuses of settler colonialism. And so we're treating the gnomes and trolls and goblins, basically as human historical ethnicities, or regional peoples who have been impacted by such entities as the British Empire or any number. Pick an empire.